I have no memories of not being in a church. I was homeschooled for 9 years, grew up in a very conservative house, good parents. My parents raised me really well. We're still close to them. This is not an indictment on my parents. They were doing the best that they could with the information that they had at the time. I don't fault them for that. And there definitely are some good values that you learn in these spaces. Then again, I am a straight white man, so spaces are kind of built like that for me, to be fair. But I've never not been a part of church ever until 2 years ago. This is the first time in my life I haven't been part of a church body. I've been a part of several different churches over my
Okay.
life. My most recent one I won't name because it's not public, the church I used to go to, but it was an Assemblies of God church in New Jersey. But I grew up Reformed, so very John MacArthur, non-charismatic. And I've been part of the Christian Missionary Alliance Network. I've been part of non-denominational churches, Assemblies of God, Baptists, etc. The work
Yeah.
I'm still doing is because I'm
Yeah.
a Christian. I was always a volunteer. I was never on staff at a church, but I've done everything you could name for an evangelical church kid. I was an usher handing out bulletins at age 8. I did Sunday school. I led the youth group. I helped plant churches. I was a professional drummer on the worship team for over 2 decades. I've led the small groups. I've been on church boards. I've been on church planting boards. I've done it all. As far as like a weekly church attendance, I would say they left me. I have not gone back, but I have the itch to go back. Like I do miss it. 45 million people have left the church, period, in the past, I think 20 something years is the actual number. That's all denominations, that's mainline and everything. But
Right.
there's been a huge uptick in evangelical spaces. The SBC, for example, Southern Baptist Convention, one of the largest evangelical networks in existence, lost, I think, over 1 million members last year, which was an all time loss for them. Personally, my partner and I, my wife, we have a friend group that is beyond the churches that we attended, meaning we became friends with them in high school. There's about 15 or 20 of us who always kept close. We're all still in New Jersey. So we do have friends in that sense. I have one or two friends who I still keep in touch with from my previous church. My previous church kicked me out. Well, kind of. They told me to either stop doing what I'm doing online via TikTok and Instagram or stop serving as a drummer with them. So that's why I say the church kind of left me. I wouldn't have left it if they didn't give me the ultimatum. So I still talk to a few friends from there that I'm close to. But as far as that ritual, right? Like that thing that you do once a week, I miss it. No doubt about it. I miss the hell out of it. I want to go back at some point, but having two kids and doing this work, and I play music professionally on the weekends for extra income, it's hard to find the time to go back. And also, one of the problems I have now as a more progressive Christian is that if the church I'm attending isn't fully affirming of queer people, I really can't attend it. So it's hard to find a church that looks a little more modern in practice with those values. Usually it's inverted. You either have a church that looks like it's ancient, it's very liturgical and very hymns driven, but they're very progressive, or you have these churches that look very progressive, look very modern, right? They're hip and the pastor's cool, but they're super conservative theologically, and I can't do that. So that's another reason why it's hard to find a new
Yeah.
spot to call home. As of this recording, I just got back from America Fest. It's hosted by Turning Point USA. They're one of the biggest far right Christian nationalist organizations out there. To give you a perspective, they raised $80 million in 2022. I go out there every year actually to their event. This is my second time going, and just to kind of get my finger on the pulse, they have a who's who of speakers and commentators there. I mean, everyone from Ted Cruz to Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, etc. So it's quite the event. I was out there to do content essentially. I like keeping tabs with those people and making content about it later, just to kind of recap what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and why I'm still confused. Even though I've talked to many people deeply in those spaces, I'm still confused how they rationalize the following of Jesus and loving our enemies thing. Christian nationalism, it is a pretty big tent, to be fair, and there's different flavors of it. But ultimately, Christian nationalism believes that it has a God given right and call to be in charge of everything in American society: culture, the arts, education, government. The term that is used in some of these spaces is the Seven Mountain Mandate, the concept that they have a call by God to influence the seven mountains of influence and to take them over and to rule. America Fest is a place where you hear a lot of that. I mean, they have pastors there. Turning Point has an entire faith arm called Turning Point Faith, and they're partnered with many large mega churches like Dream City Church. Over 20,000 people attend there. Cornerstone Chapel in Virginia, and they're working with pastors. They host pastor summits. I went to one of them, over 1,200 pastors. People come out and you just hear things that If I was a pastor, I'd be appalled at. Let me just be very clear. It's not even about the fact that people hold different views on some of these more culture war issues. Okay. So it's not, for example, that some people might be concerned from a theological perspective about someone who wants to transition. Okay. There's always discussions to have. How do we navigate ethics, etc. This is just cruel. It's about mockery, a lot of mockery aimed at these people. I've heard people from the pulpit or from the stage, like, for example, Michael Knowles, who's a well-known Ben Shapiro Daily Wire contributor, saying that we have to mock transgender people because it's so ridiculous. So it's not even a disagreement. It's really a different level of dehumanization. And it's quite jarring to watch pastors be a part of this. One example I can give you just to kind of paint the picture for whoever's watching this, and this is completely true. I have the receipts. I even covered it on a previous video. On Sunday, I'm in this huge room, and on the main stage is Steve Bannon. He's a pretty far-right Christian nationalist type, very brutal. And he's given this 45-minute rah-rah speech. We're going to go after the enemies of Trump. If anyone lays a finger on Trump, we're going to go after them. Retribution. He calls, he calls they demons. They're demons. They hate your values. He calls Nikki Haley, a presidential candidate, Lucifer. He goes, she's ambitious as Lucifer. She's worse than Judas Pence in the White House, meaning worse than Mike Pence. And 25 minutes after he gets off the stage, I'm not exaggerating, a worship band comes out to sing praise songs to Jesus. And you're like, what is going on here? How are we not seeing the problem of cheering for people who want to build crosses for their enemies and then praising a Jesus who bore a cross for his? I don't have hardline numbers to give you objective data. I can tell you from an account perspective, on Instagram, 70% of our followers are female. So I definitely think that is a trend. And I think the reason why is quite simple. A lot of these spaces are very patriarchal. They're really focused on men lead, women follow. And a lot of women have just been, frankly, silenced either by their experience or by how they've been policed with their bodies. And so they're finding a place online to vent and to say out loud what they've always wanted to say, and people are listening. We're a nonprofit organization. We're a digital first organization. We're social media minded. Everything we do is online. We're all donor based. We're all grassroots funded. And I've been doing this work now for about 2.5 years. And I'm just seeing that there is nothing that is thinking about the strategies that places like Turning Point and others use and putting it through a model of inclusivity, of justice and love to create better content to kind of counteract some of the harm that we're seeing is espoused in these places. I've been thinking for a long time, like, there's just no one, and I mean this sincerely, I've done the research. There's no real like progressive organization that is thinking about how to get contributors together, how to push out more social media content, how to have people's voices and expertise amplified to a wider audience. So we developed this movement or this evolution of our own content called Project Amplify. And the goal is to be able to become more of a media production house to actually push out more podcasts and more videos and kind of flood the social media landscape with better messages in the name of Christ, ones of inclusion and of justice, ones that counteract Christian nationalism, one that wants to protect democracy for all of their neighbors. We're still in the very basic early stages of this. We're currently in the fundraising part of it. We're not a big nonprofit, so this will require hiring staff, expanding beyond my guest bedroom. So we're definitely in the infancy stage, but I'm convinced more than ever that if we don't try and build some coalitions here and present some unified voices all across the spectrum, aiming for inclusivity, love, and justice, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.